We get to sit and enjoy the company. Hey.
Helping you spend time with your family. It's what we're all about.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to the Lizards!
You know what I mean? I would tat it on my neck.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like what I like. I do what I do. I'm a little bit different.
Yeah.
You're a different cat.
Honestly, I don't give any defenders overall on defense any credit and flowers just because.
I get it.
Yeah. And I don't ever think that anybody's on my level of go, my level of like, I'm gonna get up the next, like you hit me or whatever, or, you know, I make a play, like I'm gonna get up the next play and I'm gonna go, you know, and I may be tired, and as soon as the ball snaps, I'm not tired, you know, I'm ready to go, and whatever, 110 every single play, kind of mindset, and you know, that's kind of the level that I would, you know, kind of put Spider-Man right here at.
Yeah.
So
That's respect.
The respect is mutual between Caleb Williams and Max Crosby, who are feeding into Crosby to the Bears trade rumors, with the Bears quarterback appearing on the Edge Rushers podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome into Chicago Sports Tonight. I'm Cassie Carlson alongside Tina Wynn. And Tina, I said, what divine timing for this to happen? Because you have these trade rumors there's speculation. Does Max Crosby want to come to Chicago? We know there's a respect between these two players. And then they sit down for more than an hour together talking about the Bears, Caleb Williams, Max Crosby, their approach to football. What did you take away from their conversation?
Well, first off, these guys know what they're doing, right? Especially in this digital and social media age. But when you watch the podcast, it's pretty clear. There's a genuine level of friendship here, as well as mutual respect between both guys here. Caleb Williams and Max Crosby, now that I've gotten the chance to cover both of these guys, we kind of saw a different side of them too. Caleb was very reflective there in year one and year two, what he could do better. But you have Max Crosby, very competitive. It's clear he wants to be on a team and be a part of a team that can seriously win and win consistently. He's been in Las Vegas for 7 seasons, only one winning season there back in 2021 when they went to the playoffs wild card round, lost to the Bengals. So both of these guys are very wired differently as well. Caleb Williams pointed that out, pretty similar to Ben Johnson too.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you talk about Max Crosby of being only on one winning team in Vegas, and with the Raiders, I should say, is that he wants to be in the same talks as Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And in order to get to that level, because I think he's in the elite level of edge rushers, there may be a step above him, you got to be on a winning team. And the Bears know that they have a future with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, who are working together. And Caleb also talked about the respect he has for Ben Johnson, which Max Crosby has noted on his podcast before. Take a listen.
I told Max this. I was like, yo, he's like us. Like he wants to whoop everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's like a player in a sense, because he's like he's out there. And obviously he knows he's not out there. He knows that he always tells me, he's like, you know, players make coaches, and you know, players are everything. You know, more than scheme, more than anything. And so I think, you know, he does a good job with like adapting to his players. But he is like a player. Like he wants to whoop everybody.
Yeah. Cutthroat.
And I think Max Crosby, who is going through a coaching change right now with Clint Kubiak just being hired, they had coffee during his introductory press conference or beforehand. He's always respected Ben Johnson, because Crosby said that when they were preparing to play for the Bears this past season, he actually went back and watched Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions at the time, against the Raiders. He said he watched that game 100 times over, trying to figure out how Ben Johnson was going to scheme against Crosby, because he is so strategic in how he does it all. And I think that also plays into someone who could potentially request a trade, just get traded, and know that he wants to go to a place that has a coach that's as much of a competitor as these players are.
Right, and I think one thing too, he probably wants some stability, because as I was in Las Vegas for 2.5 years, I covered 4 or 5 different coaches, including the interim head coaches there too. But you see Max Crosby even talking about it. That was I will say, my favorite quote there from their podcast, about them talking about how they were wired pretty similar to Ben Johnson. But Max even talking when he's working out with guys, right? He quickly can tell if they can hang and if they can really train with him or not. So these two, again, level of respect between the two, and they didn't come out and say that they want to play with each other, but you can tell.
Yeah, no tampering allowed. But Caleb Williams was allowed to talk about what it's playing like in the city of Chicago, and you could tell Max Crosby was eating it up.
It's pretty crazy in Chicago. They really do love football out there. It's one of the first things that somebody told me. I don't remember who told me, but somebody told me that they've had the Bulls, they've had the Cubs, they've had, you know, White Sox. They've had all these teams win championships, and, you know, Bulls obviously went on a run, but you know, the 85 Bears and that group of winning and going to playoffs and all of that it's a bear city. I mean, you're driving into the city at night on off days or anything like that, or game days, or whatever case may be in the night before the game, and the whole city, like the skyline, is like blue and orange.
Yeah,
it's
dope.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's sick, man. I appreciate everybody from the Bears, but also the fans. I mean, they've made this experience and job.
Yeah.
I mean, just unbelievable.
I love Max Crosby's side comments. He's like, that's sick, because being in Vegas is a little bit different of an atmosphere than driving into the city, seeing how Bears fans were rejuvenated by the season, going to the playoffs, hosting 2 playoff games in the divisional. And I think that any player that wants to win also wants to be a part of a team that has a winning culture and a city that embraces it.
And when I first heard Caleb Williams talk about the city of Chicago like that, how he's driving and he sees the whole Bear Down thing, that's like everyone in Chicago, right? Especially when the Bears were winning there. And this past season, how much pride they take in the city of Chicago and seeing it light up.
All right, let's bring in someone who you know well and is very familiar with the Raiders and Max Crosby himself. Vinny Bonsignore is a senior columnist at the California Post and the host of the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio. Vinny, thanks for joining us. Did your ears perk up like the rest of Chicago when you saw Max Crosby host Caleb Williams on his podcast?
Yeah, of course we are maybe overlooking the fact that this could have been on the schedule for months. I kid. I don't think that was the case. So whether it was strategic or timely, whatever you want to call it, those two pairing up on the podcast definitely caught a lot of people's attention. And it's ironic that you guys mentioned that game against the Lions a few years ago now. That the Raiders played against Ben Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator at the time. If you remember, the very next day was when Josh McDaniels got fired after the Lions took the Raiders and took them out to the woodshed and laid it to them. And it's kind of why we're here to begin with. The amount of coaching changes that the Raiders have undergone, the rebuilds that they've done, and all of which have been kind of for naught for Max Crosby. You mentioned the one winning season that they've had during his time with the Raiders. It's just these constant stops and starts and restarts and resets. And I think he's kind of got to the point of his career where, do I really want to put my time into another reset when I look at how many years I have left at peak football? And I want to be able to go someplace where those peak years could be put to good use. He sees all of his friends hoisting Vince Lombardi trophies and playing on the biggest stages. And I think he wants a part of that. He has to figure out if that's going to happen in Las Vegas before his peak years are behind him.
Vinny, you and I have shared many laughs together in that Raiders media room there. Of course, great to have you here on the show with us in Chicago. We both know how much Mark Davis and the Raiders organization overall really value Max Crosby here. He's been the face of the franchise. He's someone that sets the tone, a kind of player, first one in, first one to lead the way at practice as well, the last to leave. He is going to want to play. But I'm curious, how strained is this relationship? Is it to the point of no return? And from what I'm hearing out of Vegas, they also want, 2 first-round picks for him? I know he's rehabbing, but he's still within the building there. Is it to the point of no return right now?
Yeah, well, I don't know that we know that yet, and I wouldn't classify it as the relationships are strained. I think Mark Davis thinks the world of Max Crosby, and likewise, I think Max Crosby thinks the world of the Raider organization. And likely the new iteration of powers that be that are in the Raider organization. I don't think it's that so much as, look, he's going to be 29 years old at the start of next season. There's only a finite amount of years these guys have to be at their peak level. And, when you think of it along those terms, I think it's more of a timeline issue. And it's not even to say that he doesn't believe that Clint Kubiak and Tom Brady and John Spytek can succeed in this rebuild. I think what he's looking at is, when that rebuild really takes hold, where am I going to be in my career? How long is that going to take? And so I think that's the biggest question that Max has to ask himself after he sits down and talks to the Raiders is, what's that timeline look like, and how does that fit my timeline? And I don't think that if it doesn't line up, there will be any bad guys in any of this, or any, misgivings, misfeelings, or anything. This is actually something that could help all sides, and that includes whoever potentially trades for Max Crosby. It's just more timeline than feelings being hurt or bad relationships at this point.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are in favor in Chicago about trading for Max Crosby, because he's younger than someone like Trey Hendrickson, has more upside than someone like Bradley Chubb, who was just released. But I think also when the speculation came out, or the Bill Bardwell article was released, and the projected trade was, hey, the Bears just have to send DJ Moore and this year's first-round pick, and they get Max Crosby and a 2027 fifth-round pick in return. People are like, that's the asking price? Because I think you look back at Micah Parsons and the trade between the Cowboys and the Packers before the season last year. The Packers had to give up a premier player on their defense along with 2 first-round picks. And I thought that was probably going to be a similar asking price for Max Crosby. And then you hear conflicting reports. Schefter saying it's going to take 2 first-round picks. And then you have Barnwell, who I don't know if he knows anything or not, saying it's going to take only 1 first-round pick. Are you hearing anything on what the asking price could be?
Yeah, I can almost undoubtedly, definitively say that it's going to take a lot more than that to get Max Crosby to Chicago if it goes down that way. And I'm more along the lines of at least 2 first-round picks. And I say that because there's going to be multiple teams, a lot in double digits, that are going to be interested in trading for Max Crosby. He's one of he would be the one true game changer that could be available on the trade market, or quite honestly, even the free agency market when you think about that market. So there will be multiple teams, like I said, double-digit teams that are legitimately interested, that would make legitimate offers. So thinking that you can get him for 1 first-round pick, which, by the way, is going to be later on in the first first round because the Bears did so well this year, and I think 29-year-old wide receiver, that's not going to get it done.
Max Crosby, obviously a 5-time Pro Bowler, 7 seasons in Las Vegas, and as we mentioned, only 1 winning season there with the Raiders. Vinny, you and I have talked before, and you've said that you do think the Bears should go after Max Crosby. Why do you think this kind of trade would make sense for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, this is all predicated on if Max Crosby says, hey, look, I'd like to move on, no hard feelings, I'm always going to be a Raider, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you're the Bears, number one, just stopping people on defense is a big thing. I think the offense is well on its way to becoming, one of the better offenses in the league. I really think the world of Caleb Williams. So I think defensively, if you can help yourself with, as I mentioned, a game changer and a game wrecker in Max Crosby, I think that's a no-brainer for the Chicago Bears. And I've told Max this, there's 2 players that I've watched with my own 2 eyes just wreck practices and just completely take over practices, and that's Max Crosby and a guy by the name of Aaron Donald with the Los Angeles Rams. You talk about 2 guys that are cut from the same cloth. Those guys are cut from the same cloth, and it's to the point where every single rep, whether it's in OTAs or training camp or in regular practices or games, feels like the Super Bowl to both players. And so that sets a standard for everybody else on the defensive line, everybody on the offensive line, everybody on both sides of the football field, everybody in the coaching staff, everybody in the weight room, everybody in the classroom. He brings it wherever he is. And I think that really helps a team. And it's going to be something that rubs off on teammates as well. So if I'm the Chicago Bears and I'm on the cusp, but I feel like I'm on the cusp to doing something pretty special over these next few years, that's a player that I want on my team.
Yeah, I think that was when people talk about fit on teams. It's one thing to fit in the scheme. It's another thing to fit in the locker room. And the Bears pride themselves on high character guys. And just hearing the back and forth between Max Crosby and Caleb Williams talking about how they earn respect from their teammates in the locker room, being from how they work and practice every day. Crosby saying he has guys work out with him and they go tell their friends, oh, I work out with Max Crosby, and then they're late or they leave early. He's like, I don't have respect for those guys. So I feel like the way that his personality would fit in the locker room would fit in seamlessly. And that's another part of why this is so intriguing. You got to ask about the surgeries that he's had, because he's had multiple. He's coming off a meniscus repair. Is there any concern that he would be a different player because of that?
No, not really. And, another comparison that I have for Max in terms of the mindset and playing through pain and being able to have this uncanny ability to come back and bounce back from injuries. And that's Kobe Bryant. And I saw Kobe, I covered Kobe, multiple surgeries, putting off surgery, playing through things that most human beings, would have to call in sick just at an office job and be able to just eat the pain and deal with it. And Max is kind of cut from that same cloth as well. I think that it was a positive that he got the surgery that he got, more of a kind of a cleanup, taking care of some things with the knee. I think that he's never going to take a day off in terms of the rehabilitation. So I would imagine to whatever extent he can get back, he's going to get back. And even if there are some issues that he's got to play through, he's already shown time and time again that he's one of those players that's wired to play through those types of situations. So I don't think that it's anything, at least that I've heard, that's going to, create any kind of a setback or any kind of a lower level of play over these next few years that he has at peak value and peak level. And, obviously for the Chicago Bears, you're going to talk to your sources, whether it's fellow trainers with the Raiders, get a look at the, at all the images, at all the MRI, results, and scan all of that. You're going to have your doctors and medical staff take a look at that. But if they sign off on that, then I don't have any feelings or any kind of concern that Max is going to be at any kind of a diminished level moving forward.
Vinny, my final question for you on Max Crosby. The Raiders, I saw recently promoted D-line coach Rob Leonard to be the defensive coordinator here. How should we be reading into that? Because from what I understand, Crosby and Coach Leonard are very close.
Yeah, no doubt they are. I don't think the Raiders promoted Rob strictly to keep Max Crosby. It can't hurt. Let's be honest about that. But I think Rob Leonard is unto himself. He was a very highly regarded defensive line coach who was climbing the ladder to do exactly what he's done, and that's become a defensive coordinator. Whether that was going to be in Las Vegas or elsewhere, his time was coming. So I think that it's on its own merit. But I also think that it can't hurt in terms of Max Crosby. That's one more reason that I would think a Max Crosby would want to stay and want to see this latest reset out to see where it takes him and the Raiders.
All right, Vinny, I have one quick question to wrap this up. You picture the start of next season, week 1. Is Fernando Mendoza throwing to DJ Moore?
I think Fernando Mendoza is throwing the football for the Raiders to start next season, by the way. Whether it's to DJ Moore, I'm not sure. And that's not to say that the Chicago Bears can't or won't trade for Max Crosby. I just wonder if DJ Moore would be part of that deal. I think it's going to be more where the Raiders are. I think draft picks are the way to go, but they do need a wide receiver. So if you want to, sweeten the pot by throwing DJ Moore in there along with 2 first-round picks, I'm sure the Raiders wouldn't say no to that.
Got to be curious if they'd be willing to take on that contract as well. Vinny, of course, great to have you on the show. By the way, long gone are the days of everyone in the Raiders media room making fun of me for not knowing a Wu-Tang song. So.
Yes, and I always had your back on that, by the way. So, they had their fun, but I had your back.
Oh, thanks, Vinny.
All right, thanks, Vinny. We need to take a timeout. Coming up, we check in Arizona with ESPN Chicago's Jesse Rogers as he gives us the latest around the MLBPA news and Cubs camp. That's coming up next on Chicago Sports Tonight. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Tonight. After Tom Ricketts said his message to fans this season is enjoy the season, it was inferred he said that because baseball is headed for a work stoppage at the end of the season. And now a cloud is cast over the MLBPA after executive director Tony Clark resigned for reports of an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was hired by the union in 2023. And we are now less than 10 months away from the current CBA expiring. Now, the MLBPA will look for a replacement. So let's bring in ESPN's Jesse Rogers, who's at Cubs spring training. And Jesse, it seemed like yesterday when this news dropped early in the morning, most of the players inside the clubhouse were surprised and taken aback by the news. Now that it's been more than 24 hours and there's more information around this, what's been the reaction today?
Still pretty shocked because there was already an ongoing federal investigation about misuse of funds at the PA, and Tony Clark was at the center of that investigation, which is still going on. So for him to resign because of this inappropriate relationship, which, by the way, was revealed during the investigation of the misappropriation of funds, that shocked players because they thought, if anything, he'd leave because of this federal thing going on. But instead, it's this sort of nepotism thing, the inappropriate relationship because this person worked at the PA. So many scandalous layers to this thing. But I think the players feel like they're still in a good place because Tony Clark was kind of the CEO. He wasn't the negotiator, wasn't the guy at the table, hammering out the new CBA. He was more the figurehead. So they feel like they're going to be okay in transitioning to the next lead man because their negotiating team is in place.
All right, we're going to get to the current Cubs in a second. But first, I want to touch on a former Cub, Chris Bryant, who is starting the season on the 60-day IL for the Rockies with a degenerative back disc injury. And this is a really unfortunate situation when you're talking about Chris Bryant, what he did for the Cubs, being Rookie of the Year in 2015, MVP in 2016, winning a World Series. And then ever since he parted ways with the Cubs and joined the Rockies, he's only played in 170 games because of consistent injuries. I want first to listen to what he had to say about dealing with what he's dealing with right now.
It's difficult. It's not easy waking up in pain every day. So, so now we're here. And I think just try to determine next steps while I'm here and with the training staff and the doctors.
So, Jesse, it's one thing to listen to it. I think it's another thing to see his body language. And to me, that's what's the saddest part about all of this is Chris Bryant said every time he tries to run, he feels like he's going to fall over. And I don't know if you're dealing with that situation, how you come back and play baseball. Do you feel like this is headed towards Chris Bryant possibly retiring?
I do. I had a long conversation with him towards the end of last season in Colorado when the Cubs were there. Just was not in a good place. He was practically in tears. I met his 4 kids, and he talked about barely being able to pick them up. I think there are things he could probably do to better his life moving forward if he wasn't playing baseball. But in order to play, I don't think he can do them. I'm talking about maybe surgery and stuff like that. So I think he's going to have to make a choice. And it's a tough one. I mean, he's got a big contract. Maybe they'll figure something out. But I do feel like this is headed towards him not playing again. When I spoke to him, it was really tough, as you could tell there, because the thing that he's done his whole life has now been taken away from him. And, it happens to everybody, but maybe not usually at that age, right, where you still have years left in the game. And when his quality of life has gone, downhill like it has because of this injury, I think that sort of leans towards not playing again.
I want to get into Dansby Swanson because he admitted he is making changes to his offensive mindset because he is frustrated with the way he's played at the plate since joining the Cubs. What does that look like when he talks about changing his offensive mindset?
I think he can learn something from Alex Bregman, to be honest. Just be a little bit more consistent at the plate. Don't get out of your routine when things aren't going well. PCA has this problem as well. Dansby's very streaky, and some players are, but you want to over time try to even those streaky moments out. And a guy like Alex Bregman, I think, will rub off well on Swanson. It's really about approach more than mechanics. You could tell. I mean, you don't have to be a hitting coach to tell when he's out of it. Swinging from his heels, swinging at those outside pitches, trying to pull them. It's really about approach. Maybe getting too caught up in his power, which he does have. Like I said, Alex Bregman has this even-keeled approach that everybody kind of admires. I really do think he could rub off on Dansby, but that's it. Just sort of even things out and try to avoid the streakiness of it all. Easier said than done, but there's a way to get there, even at his age. And I'm interested to see if it really takes hold or he kind of reverts back to his old ways, which weren't, god awful, but it wasn't as consistent as you'd want for a guy making the money he is and for a guy that could be in the middle of that order.
Yeah, and he's going to be in the middle of a really strong order that they are anticipating. Tom Ricketts spoke on Monday. I want to first take a listen to what he had to say about expectations for the Cubs this year, and then we'll get into more of the discussion.
Obviously, we want to win the division. We should win the division. It's just a matter of executing and staying healthy, and I think we should be right there. We just have to win more World Series. I mean, it's about winning. I mean, all this other stuff, it all leads to one thing, and that's about winning. And we just have to put the kind of teams on the field that can be in the playoffs every year and get back on top.
So, Jesse, Craig Counsell enters year 3. Tom Ricketts spends money this offseason. That's always been criticism towards him. What kind of sense did you get just about his tone of saying, hey, we need to win more World Series?
Well, I think it's a little bit out of context because the question was, what's left for your family to do? You've renovated Wrigley. You've won one World Series. You've done this. You've done that. And he said, win more. I mean, I guess that's the right answer. What else should you answer as the owner of a team? Make more popcorn? No, win more World Series. So I think that was the tone. It makes sense. I don't think he says it 3-4 years ago as they're starting a rebuild. You say something like that now when you at least have a shot. And look, they have a shot. They're not going to be the favorites. And they're not going to be even 1, 2, or 3. But they're at least in the team photo that have a shot. I mean, he spends, but he's not spending like the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets and some of these teams. And sometimes you feel like there's a ceiling to that. You can get to the postseason. To win it all, you might have to be one of these $300 million payrolls. We'll see.
Jesse Rogers, we appreciate your time. Stay dry out there in Arizona. You get one cloudy day. I know that's doom and gloom out there. All right, that's
got it. It's cool and cloudy today, but it'll be sunny tomorrow.
Lucky you. It's not bad here in Chicago either. And that is going to do it for Chicago Sports Tonight. For Tina Nguyen and Jesse Rogers, I'm Cassie Carlson. Have a good one. We'll see you back here same time for another episode of Chicago Sports Tonight.